Hey folks, welcome back to HeartGold vs. Crystal. We are here in New Bark Town, and we are heading to the east, because the east is where we will find the Pokémon League. And at the Pokémon League, we will find the Indigo Plateau, and at the Indigo Plateau, we will find the Elite Four. And after the Elite Four, we will find the Hall of Fame. That's a ways off. But, for now, we've just taken our first steps into Kanto, and initially, when we first played the original games, it was a little bit confusing because Kanto was not referred to as such in the original Red, Blue, Yellow, Green. But when you pulled out your map and looked at it, it was in fact the same region from Gen 1. So that was a bit of an amazing little brick shit right there. And we will get to explore it eventually, but for now we have limited access through routes 27 and 26, which will lead to the Indigo Plateau. But first, before we do that, we have to head through Tojo Falls. This is why waterfall is mandatory. And of course, thanks to its strategic placement, this also means that you have to bring a waterfall user all the way from New Bark Town up to the Pokémon League building. So if you don't have waterfall on one of your regular team members, like I don't, that's unfortunate. I guess you'll be down a team member for most of this area. And that's actually a significant kind of disadvantage, because the trainers here are somewhat difficult. They need to be higher level to give you good enough experience to actually be useful against the Elite Four. So it's just overall, it's a bit of an annoying hindrance, basically. Luckily, most of the HMs you'll ever want to use can be placed onto the Red Gyarados, so if you ever, like, you'll rarely be down more than one team member, but it's still frustrating. Anyway, let's check out some of the interesting Pokemon we have on this route. We have a trainer with a Venusaur. Venusaur, of course, being the final evolution of Bulbasaur, and Bulbasaur, of course, being the very first Pokemon in National Dex Order. So it's a throwback. We're entering Kanto, right? The region of the first games, and the first trainer you meet has the first, second, and third Pokemon in the Kanto Pokédex, all three evolutionary stages of Bulbasaur. So it's a very nice way to kind of introduce you back into the Kanto region. Now, on the other hand, this does mean that you're facing a level 32 Bulbasaur, but you're also facing a level 32 Venusaur, which is actually entirely legal. Kind of the weird thing about Venusaur is that, unlike Blastoise and Charizard, it reaches its final stage at level 32 rather than level 36. Strange, I know. Interesting. Odd, I know. But anyway, it goes down to Fire-type moves. And here's an opportunity sort of for another Rock-type move, but it's one of those low PP and actually not that great base power moves, and I was too attached to the moves I had right now. It does have the possibility of increasing all of your stats by one stage, but that's unreliable. Ancient Power, unfortunately, it can be great, but not always. In fact, rarely. Anyway, here's a TM for Sandstorm. Sandstorm is something you ran into when you fought Jasmine back in Olivine. It damages most types every turn for a little bit of damage, and has a couple nice side effects for rock types and for very specific Pokemon with specific abilities, such as Sandra. But since most of my team doesn't actually benefit from Sandstorm, I'm not going to put it on just for Sandra. Although, I imagine if I did, I would get all sorts of lucky instances and be very glad that I did so, but it's not happening. Anyway, this route is actually somewhat redesigned from the originals. The originals, it was a pretty straightforward boardwalk, but now we have a hill, cliffside, with grass and items and all that things. It's not significantly different, it's still linear, but it does add a little bit of variety, so I will give it a pass. Anyway, here's the boardwalk. Now, by this point, my team was actually fairly run down, so Yeah, actually kind of dicey. I had to bring healing items. That doesn't happen very often on routes, and I think they understood that that was a thing that would happen. As you'll see in just a little bit, they planned ahead. Now, catastrophic, unfortunate thing here. Mother calls saying that I have an item at the nearest mart, but unfortunately the item delivery guide doesn't actually appear at the mart at the Pokémon League. So I would have to backtrack in order to get whatever wonderful prize that was. Probably more berries that I'll never use. Anyway, here, have a path back. I don't know. I don't know what the point of having that was, honestly. It's not like you can take it up, so I don't know. Anyway, up here you can see there's a house there. What is the purpose of that house? Well, you will understand the purpose of that house in just a few minutes, but first, we have one more bit of combat that I want to show you. Much like how we had the Venusaur earlier, we now have a Blastoise, the final evolution of Squirtle, who is the Water-type starter of Kanto. And it's a badass. I'm showing it, one, because it's a Blastoise and it's relevant to the whole Kanto thing, and two, because it's badass. It has cannons on its back, pre-installed, no assembly required. Frickin' boss, alright. I don't care if he looks pudgy in this generation. He's cool. Anyway, getting in what I thought was going to be an Ace Solar Beam, but unfortunately that Rain Dance that's set up actually lowers the power of Sunny Day. So, I mean, not of Sunny Day, but of Solar Beam. So, you can see it did significantly less damage than I would like. If my mathematical calculations are correct, it wouldn't have KO'd anyway, but it would have done, I think, double that. I want to say Rain Dance cuts the power of it in half. But either way, Blastoise, kind of a bulky dude. It's almost like he's wearing armor made of a shell armor, if you will. But no, actually, he is Torrent. Is the metagame joke that people may or may not have actually gotten. Yeah, the thing about the most of the starters actually is that when they get below 1/3 of their max HP, it powers up their stab moves, or at least their primary stab moves that they represent as starters. So here, Blastoise has actually got extremely powerful Aqua Tail because of the ability Torrent, and it was already formidable to begin with. Finally, Blastoise goes down. Didn't actually take too long, but there were several casualties, and nobody likes casualties. And a level up to boot, always nice. Now, I'm sure you've been just tossing and turning in your beds trying to figure out what that house is. Well, I'll let you know after this commercial break. It was a rest house. There's a lady who will heal your Pokemon, that's about it. Not showing it because, seriously, you don't need to see that. Anyway, let's move on to some more trainers. Now, the last couple trainers actually are pretty darn difficult. Like, most of the trainers on this route are actually pretty darn difficult when you're under-leveled like I am. But the last couple trainers actually have a somewhat diverse team. So that's interesting and new and cool. And this one especially managed to throw a couple curveballs. First off, it has Toxic, which is a dangerous move that I'm not sure how he has it yet. I don't know if Victory Bell learns it through level up, or if he was spending some time at the battle frontier. But Toxic is a poison effect that gets worse every turn, so that's, I mean, worse as in more powerful, not worse as in not as good. So yeah, you'll want to cure it ASAP, or switch out the Pokemon that you have so that it resets the counter. And luckily, finally, we have a use for Breeze Flamethrower. Not happening as often as I might have expected, but it's a dangerous thing. As you can see, it did almost enough damage to KO that Victory Bell. But that leads into the second curveball that this guy has. He actually switched Pokemon without one of his Pokemon fainting, because he has that Victory Bell kind of as a decoy for Pokemon to use Fire-type moves against, and then he will switch in the Flareon, which gets a benefit from absorbing Fire-type moves. it's actually a combo. It's strategy. And it's very rare in this game. It's very rare in any Pokemon game. I would love if more Pokemon trainers had pre-programmed strategies like that to make every encounter actually planned and thoughtful. But that would be a lot of effort on the part of the programmers. So, there you go. Not happening. Then we also have the Kingler. And I've basically given up on the idea of mirror matches by now. Mirror matches are just... they never seem to work out for me, basically. So I am just citing for super effectiveness. Well, there's Guillotine. Guillotine is actually somewhat threatening to me, because it's one of those things that's dependent slightly on the level of the user versus the opponent. I believe that it, along with moves like Sheer Cold, actually increase in accuracy the greater the discrepancy, the greater level amount that the user has against the opponent. Luckily we were tied, so it wasn't too bad. Anyway, let's finish off this victory bell in another version. Ooh. Now, I was actually giving a lot of special attention to Frida here in Crystal, because I really wanted to get Frida up to level 37 before the Elite Four. You can also see that this victory bell follows very much the same tactics as the first one. But at level 37 in Crystal is when Frida learns the move Sleep Powder, which she already has from a long time ago in HeartGold, but learns it much later here. Why they changed it, I guess it's just to make things easier on the player. But it was important here because I really wanted to get Sleep Powder before facing the Elite Four, not only because Sleep Powder is another move that is very useful, but also because it gives me a perfectly valid excuse to do a little something else with Frida a little later on once we finish this battle. And here's the process of learning Sleep Powder, now that I've talked about it to death. It is slightly higher accuracy than Hypnosis, that's why I was holding out for it. But now that I've gotten it, it's finally time to use this Leaf Stone that I've been sitting on. The Leaf Stone is an excellent item that allows you to evolve certain Grass-type Pokemon, including Frida. Ta-da! Finally, we have Executor. Now, if I had a Leaf Stone in HeartGold, I would use it immediately. But on the one hand, while it is technically easier to get a Leaf Stone in HeartGold than it is in Crystal, because you can win one from the Pokéathlon by gathering up points, it's also much more of a pain in the butt for me because I can't do the Pokéathlon well with an actual stylus, and good luck trying to do it with a mouse. So I'm actually going to hold off on evolving Frida in HeartGold until I have an easier opportunity to get a Leaf Stone. And there you have Crystal having an advantage against HeartGold, probably because of pure luck in that Gina called me and gave me a Leaf Stone. But still, for once, advantage Crystal. Anyway, here we have a Parasect. Crazy guy. Parasect is unfortunate. He's the worst typing in the world. He's quadruple weak to both fire and flying, which is just too bad. And I think it even has the ability Dry Skin sometimes, which will make fire moves even more powerful. Plus, those are critical, and oh, I'm so sorry, Parasect. You're just not doing well. And also this guy has a Vaporeon, and good lord, you know I've talked about Vaporeon enough, but I am actually contractually obligated to include this battle because the name of this trainer is Ace Trainer Jake, and it's me. I am Ace Trainer Jake. It's me. I confess, it was me. But anyway, let's try out a new strategy against Vaporeon. Let's try out Klaus with Swords Dance. Because hopefully, Klaus will be able to live moves that Vaporeon dishes out. It's a dicey endeavor, as you can see. We are faster than Vaporeon, which, when Klaus is involved, is actually pretty rare. But you can see, depending on the random number generator, I wasn't really sure whether that was on the low end or the high end, whether that could be a 2KO if the gods willed it or not. But luck was on my side, so hopefully we'll be able to unleash some pretty good damage against this Vaporeon. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, you priority moves. You can do nothing to me. Nothing! Yeah, with 2 Swords Dances under his belt, Klaus now has +4 to his attack modifier, which is jargon speak for his attacks are going to do a lot more damage. His physical attacks, anyway. And with that, Vaporeon goes down. See, Klaus getting some action against some other water types. Strength, I don't know, I wish I had something better than Strength, but Strength is holding its own. And then we have a Golduck. Will we continue the Swords Dance sweep? Maybe not? Nope, I guess not. See, one of the things about Swords Dance is that although it will do a lot of damage and can possibly avoid putting Pokemon into the red and thus in the healing zone, its true usefulness is in sweeping large numbers of Pokemon, so that you're actually being more time efficient, since you don't have to use more strengths, more moves on each Pokemon. But I guess I decided that Frida really needed the experience. I don't know. Maybe Klaus is getting a little ahead, and I wanted to keep the levels even. But there you go. Solar Beam on a Golduck, which is not part Psychic type. Ooh, that's good. That was a good move. Confusion really not doing much at all. It really is weird to put things in perspective there. You have a super effective stab move with high base power, and then you have a not super effective stab move with less high base power, and it's just kind of pitiful to see. But anyway, Frida has the opportunity to learn the move Worry Seed, which prevents the opponent from sleeping. You can use it against Pokemon that use Rest, but other than that, I can't think of many other opportune situations. Anyway, we still can't pick up that item. It's a shame. And one last trainer on this route. We're not showing this one because this person isn't named Jake. I'm sorry. Too bad. Here we go into the Pokémon League. We have the badge check. The thing about the badge check is that it's really anticlimactic compared to the first game. In the original Kanto games, you have to pass through a long gauntlet with a whole bunch of NPCs that check your badges individually. This is a lot quicker, but it's a lot less dramatic. Anyway, that takes care of that, and next time we will head through Victory Road in the final gauntlet. See you next time!